So maybe one of the things holding you back from hiring a virtual assistant or getting started with Sphere Rocket is something deep embedded inside of you that says, Justin, I think that because the virtual assistant is from another country, they may steal things from me, my client's information, my money, and that's why I'm not getting started with a virtual assistant. If that's something you've ever thought of, this video is perfect for you. All right, guys, so you are still watching this because you are thinking, hey, what if a virtual assistant steals all my information? Like, how are people using virtual assistants? Before we even go down any of that, right? Like, there could be a million reasons you're here. Maybe you're watching this video thinking I might give you guys some tips and tricks to increase your security when hiring a virtual assistant. And if that's the case, you're absolutely right. Maybe you think you're here to maybe get some limiting beliefs destroyed and show you how I'm using my team with ultra secure methods. You would absolutely be right. But before we even go down any of those different paths, I think one of the key things I need to show you guys is why we have that deep down belief that virtual assistants could possibly be more inclined to steal things than other hires that we might make locally. And so I want to go to where that belief comes from. When we look back to the dates of when email got started, email, got created and different things like that over the last 20 plus years, we've all heard of these different scams that come along, right? Like if you don't forward this on, you're going to get scammed, or we get these like African Prince emails where it's like, I got millions of dollars, and if you reply back here, we will send $5 million in return, right? And we've all seen these different levels of scams. Obviously with AI today, all these different things that are going on, we've seen a rise in scams. And a lot of times when scams are reported, they originate from places like India or the Philippines or, different countries. And these countries will have scam centers that are set up to scam US-based companies, scam Europeans, different things like that. And one of the things that when you really dig down into the root of scams and you really get educated on the knowledge of scams, and I'll put some links down in the description below for you guys to kind of cite our sources on, you're going to find that just because a virtual assistant is out of country versus being local, based in here in America, does not increase or decrease the likelihood of you being scammed, right? It doesn't increase or decrease the likelihood of someone taking advantage of your systems. But that is only the case when your systems are not properly set up, right? And so one of the things we're going to talk about in the video today is we're going to talk about a few different systems and tools that we use to help keep you secure and make sure that everything is running smoothly, right? One of the things we get a lot with our clients is they're small business owners and they have things like CRMs that have phone information, contact information, email information, and information about clients. And we always get the question of like, Justin, what if my virtual assistant steals all of that? Well, what if they take all that information? Like, it would ruin my business, okay? Now, I really want to attack that one first, guys. Like, if you had a US-based employee, they could also steal all of that information. They could also go into the CRM and delete it, right? No different than a virtual assistant from the Philippines can. The key is what accesses did you give them, right? What systems does that CRM have, for example, for recovery, right? What systems do you have monitoring your virtual assistant screen to watch and warn of those actions, right? What systems and security permissions do you have? Are they using their own email address, or are you following our systems and creating them one under Google admin access, right? Now, we're going to use some words in this where you're going to be like, Justin, I don't know what any of that means. I don't know how to set any of that up, right? One of the things that Sphere Rocket does for clients just like yourself is we give you an onboarding course that only takes an hour or two when you first get started with us, where we help set up those different systems to make sure that you are as secure as possible. And so, while I won't go into every single one of those systems, that's, obviously inside of our course for our clients, I do want you to be rest assured that over the last, 6 years, 10,000 plus virtual assistants and 4,000 plus clients, we've only had roughly 2 incidences of where a virtual assistant was let go. The client did not follow our processes, and obviously in revenge, the virtual assistant tried to delete stuff out of the CRM. Right now, luckily for that client, they were using big CRMs, for example, Follow Up Boss in the real estate industry, and I think they were using Salesforce on a different one. And all those companies have backups. They had a level of a plan that allowed them to restore that, and within minutes, everything was just fine. Right? They had Google Sheets that virtual assistant had deleted, and because they were on Google Sheets and using Google Drive and using Google backups, within minutes they had the versions restored, right? And so while I won't say that it won't ever happen, right, there isn't, in my opinion, an increased likelihood because they are a virtual assistant from the Philippines versus a US-based employee. That was 2 examples that I've heard of. And you would think that as a company, we're going to hear of these problems. Only 2 examples over the last 6 years that we have had. We did have one example where a client actually did the opposite. He accidentally sent $10,000 instead of $1,000 to his VA. And that VA actually resent back the $9,000 extra. So just to kind of show you guys, like sometimes we have these preconceived thoughts in our head of what happened. And it's not that they can't happen. That could happen today with my US-based team, right? I have 30 US-based employees, and every single day, any of them could do exactly what we're concerned or what you may be concerned about with our overseas team, right? And so the key is having different levels of security, access, and systems to back you up in that case. Now, when it comes to things like banking, and fraud and wire fraud, obviously, if you're looking at using virtual assistants in industries where you might have client social security information, you guys are dealing with wiring the information, we always recommend that we keep most of even our US-based assistants out of that, right? Or that they're highly qualified, that they're in employee status. So if you're looking to have your virtual assistants work with like social security numbers or like wiring information, there's a completely different setup in the Philippines that the VAs need to be underneath, which is called a BPO service, which Sphere Rocket does offer as well. But for 98+% of other, methods, you can use any of the core services, and be totally okay. Obviously, a few years ago, I had a client that said, "Hey, Justin, I trust my VA so much and they're so awesome. We gave them all my bank account information so they could pay all my bills." And like, you would have seen like my face go like ghost. I was like, that is the stupidest thing I had ever heard. They did not take our course. And they're like, "Well, Justin, how else would my virtual assistant pay my bills?" And like for me, as someone that uses Chase Bank, there's an actual way to go in and create your different people. Like my accounting department has a profile within Chase Bank with extremely locked down settings, except for the things we do, right? There's another virtual assistant that has access to my checking account, and they can make wire transfers and they can make different things like that up into a certain dollar amount, right? So like my CEO, she can make wire transfers up to $5,000, right? If she transferred $5,000 to herself every day for 5 days, I'm probably going to catch it at some point, but that's the level of trust and risk that I'm allowing her to have, right? Where a virtual assistant that just came on my team today, I'm not going to give them access to make wire transfers, and so again, it's just to give you guys an example that a lot of times our rooted bias around virtual assistants having more potential to scam or steal our clients' information is well overblown by our mind in a protection. Your mind is built to protect yourself. And so when I first started getting started with virtual assistants, my mind did the same thing, right? It's like, watch out for scams, watch out for this, watch out for that. And while there is truth to it, if you have the right systems and processes and you use a company like ours that will give you all the things you need to put into place to make sure that you have the best chance of those things not happening to you, then that's what you need to do. Right? And even the things we teach you inside of our courses and onboarding and our coaches teach, it's things that you should honestly be applying to your own US team, right? So all the things I teach around virtual assistant security are the same things I teach my US-based team as well. So I'm going to give you guys a few more examples before we jump off. Obviously, if you guys have any deeper questions about security, you can always talk to your Sphere Rocket sales rep as you're considering hiring us for a virtual assistant. You can also talk to one of your coaches if you're a current client, or you can drop comments down below this video and I'm more than happy to do this. But just remember, places like Chase Bank, Google, Apple, the people that have the most sensitive information in the world, they use virtual assistants from the Philippines with no problem. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I just want to go through a few tools that we want to go through real fast to make sure that you guys are being as secure as possible. Number one is whenever you have a VA starting on your team, you want to make sure that they are setting up their email address with a Google admin. For example, my email is justin@sphererocket.com. When I get a new VA on my team, it might be michael@sphererocket.com. Don't just create them an email of 123gmail or 123michael@gmail.com. If you do that, that means they are not underneath your account. It means you can't change their passwords, you can't change their settings, you can't get into their drive. So the very first thing I'm going to teach you is you need to use Google Admin Suite. That is the number one tool I recommend people use when they're first starting with a virtual assistant, is Google Admin Suite. Number two, you need to have a real and honest conversation with someone at the CRM company and ask, hey, what is your guys' policy on backups? Is there anything I need to be doing for backups? Guys, this is good just in general, not even if you're hiring a virtual assistant, but have a conversation with a few of the providers where you keep all your information, right? So for us, our CRM is Follow Up Boss. I've had a conversation with them. I know how they back up. We also do a manual backup where I export everything about once a week, just in case anything were, even if it was an errant click by an admin, I always have that backup. So again, number one is using Google Admin. Number two is having a conversation not only with your CRM, but with other people that you might be using services for, whether it's like task software, Asana, whether it's, portals, maybe you're in real estate and you have like a transaction coordination portal, maybe you're in, plumbing or electrician and you guys use things like Service Titan or like Job Tread or, different things like that. Those are all options. That's number 2. Number 3 is whenever you're sharing passwords, you should not just give them a password, right? We like 2 other methods than just giving passwords. Method number 1 is if the platform you're giving them access to can allow them to have an account with access settings, that's obviously really preferred, right? If I'm giving them access to my CRM, I don't want to give them my login that has the ultimate God mode access. I want to give them their own login, if at all possible, that has a restricted, stripped down level, even if it is a higher up level. And so on that note, we want to give them that. Now, if we do have to give them the password to something because the software we're using doesn't have, security, users and things like that, I at least want them to be using LastPass or some version of Password Keeper, right? LastPass is a version of a vault for passwords that when you obviously give them an account to, if they want to log into your Facebook or they want to log into these different things, it will autofill the password, but it will not preview and show them the password for them to write down and they'll be able to get into. They can only get into it as long as they have shared access. This is really good because whenever we have issues with any company and we start to suspect anything's wrong or we need to possibly lay someone off, or fire them for non-performance, we obviously can go in and we can shut down these things. I can go into Google Admin, shut them out. I can shut them out of the CRM. I can shut them out of LastPass. And within about 3 clicks of a button, usually about a 15-minute process, they have access to nothing that the company has access to, right? Now, if you're sharing things with their personal email address, with edit access and all these different things, yes, you're going to run into issues. So this is a long video. It's a little long-winded, but at the core of it, when you get a virtual assistant and you learn from a company like ours that have done this 10,000 plus times across 4,000 plus business owners, and you follow a very simple roadmap, you will not have an increased risk as long as you do exactly what we say. Now, with that being said, if you go out and do this on your own, I would say in general, whether it's US or foreign based, you're going to have an increased chance, of obviously getting scammed or, or falling for something or forgetting about a certain thing. Oh, I forgot to back up my stuff. And so if you guys are considering a virtual assistant, just rest easy to know that because my team, for me personally, is about 200 team members, I have learned every software, I have learned everything. And that's why a lot of clients take advantage when they get a VA from us of our tech support. Our tech support teaches this, they can help with it, which is a really cool benefit of Sphere Rocket Virtual Assistants is that, we're there to guide you along the way. Obviously, in our fully managed BPO services, those virtual assistants that are working directly for us, which is another service that you guys can inquire into if you guys have any questions about, those virtual assistants are working underneath our foreign corporation as an employee of our corporation. And so we have all of those things in place already for when they're working for US-based companies, just based on the standards and practices of our own corporation. And so Sphere Rocket BPO is probably something that a lot of you guys are going to go with or go that route because it is more of a done for you solution because the virtual assistants are working for us directly in the Philippines underneath our foreign corporation, which gives a lot more protections and different things like that as well. So again, one of the few things we do at Sphere Rocket a lot differently than others is we have a lot of options, a lot of different products, but all the options and products give you the skills that you guys need to make sure that you are protected and that a virtual assistant won't steal from you, won't take personal information, and won't quote unquote destroy your business. So can't wait to see you guys get past this limiting belief and look ahead to hiring your first virtual assistant, which I know you guys are going to have a ton of success with. So as always, if you guys want to subscribe down below, you guys will get access to all the other videos on our channel that go through all the different limiting beliefs that I had before hiring a virtual assistant, but also all the tips and tricks and tools that our clients are using to have more success. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, when you learn to wrangle the power of virtual assistants and having a remote team, you're going to be able to grow your profit margins beyond, your wildest dreams. So with that being said, guys, we'll see you guys in the next video.